Hello, and thank you so much for joining us here on Wave Now's We Should Talk About It. I'm Myra Ansari with Dr. Stephen Taylor from U of L Health Peace Hospital. Thank you for being here, Dr. Taylor.
It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, so we are talking about routine. You know, we all may have one, and it all gets sometimes thrown out of whack. Sometimes it can be the summertime, a change of schedule. You know, we were talking about, your kids may be in camp, and now you're trying to figure out the routine of the mornings and the rest of the day, but that can impact your mental health, right? If you're not on that routine.
Mm-hmm.
Routines can be good, but sometimes they're a little rigid, right?
Right. And I was just thinking too, how great it would be if everybody's routine changed together, but they don't. You were just talking about kids. Kids can be out of school for the summer, but you still have to work. And so your routine is being disrupted, but you're still trying to maintain the same routine. And so I think there's a lot of tension in that too. And that can have a big effect on our mental health, on our mood, on our anxiety level. We can find ourselves feeling anxious and we don't even know why. And one of the reasons might very well be the shift between our routine being sort of confronted by the changing routine of our kids or somebody else in the family. Somebody retires. If if your partner retires and you're still working,
Yeah.
there's a big routine shift. And I think it can be a source of a lot of anxiety too. And we often don't pay attention to that.
If you've had a change in routine, whether it's the summer, just life in general, tell us about it. How are you managing it? For me in my home right now, wake up times, going to bed, everything has been kind of disrupted. Kids are staying up way too late. We're waking up a little bit later because we don't have the 8 a.m. school start time. Camp starts a little bit later. So the morning does not feel like I get as much crammed in as I typically have. And then the guilt of not getting everything done weighs heavy on me. But, I guess that's life, right?
That's true. And, routine changes too as we get older. When we're younger, we need a lot more sleep than we need as we get older. I think most of us know that's true. And we experience that as we live our lives. Our kids, they need 10 hours of sleep, 9 to 10 hours of sleep at night. We don't, as adults, need to sleep that much. And so that's a routine shift that can be difficult to adjust to. As our kids are getting older, they need less sleep. When they get to college, they'll get less sleep. Some of that is just because they're at college and their friends are all staying up all night, and then so are they. But part of it is they're getting older. And as we get older, we don't need to sleep as much. Our grandparents don't sleep anywhere near as much as we do as adults. And we can think that there's something abnormal about that, but that's just a normal part of our life cycle. That's normal.
So many folks are taking vacations, right? And when you're in vacation mode, it is hard to get back into the real life mode afterwards. Your eating habits may have slipped. Your exercise habits may have slipped.
Right.
Sleeping habits may have slipped. How do we get back into the groove of things?
Well, some of it is just in pieces. Don't do it all at once. I think, making a massive change all in one time, thinking, I'm going to get this all done today, can set us up for failure and disaster. That's a lot of change all at one time. And our mental apparatus needs some time to adjust to that. I remember hearing once that if we move to a new home, that it takes our mental self about 3 weeks to adjust to that move. So we can physically move into a new house and that's our new place. We know how to get there. We drive there, we take the bus there, whatever we do to the new place that we're living, but it doesn't feel like home. It takes about 3 or 4 weeks before it starts to feel like this is where I live. This is my home. Our mental life takes time to catch up to it. And routine is the same way. If we're changing our routine, our mental apparatus is going to take a little more time to adjust to that shift than our physical bodies will.
Do some people need a routine? Do they have to have a routine? Is life easier for them if they are on a routine?
I think it's good for all of us. I think we all need some kind of routine because it helps us to stay organized. It helps us to feel like there's some predictability. I remember an analyst that I knew once was saying, imagine what would happen if we change so rapidly and if change happens so fast for us as human beings that you met a friend, you talked to them, and the next day you went to see them and they looked like a completely different person. They acted different, they looked different, they just didn't even seem like the same human being. That would be very disruptive. Change that happens that fast is really disconcerting for us as human beings. So we need for those things to have some space and to have some time.
So if your routine is you get up in the morning, you check the news, you grab a cup of coffee, you take a walk, like those sort of things can cause a little bit of, it brings a little bit of mental stability.
For sure. Absolutely, it does. And, transitions, it's always, I think it's a good idea in transition to have a few days, a day or two, just to give yourself time to adjust to it. So you're going, let's say your last day of school was Thursday. Friday, we're going to Disney World. I mean, there's not much time between that last day of school and then getting on the plane to fly, to Disney World. And so, as exciting as that would be, there's not much time to make that adjustment. So the first few days at the park are going to feel a little off, and you're not going to get as much out of it because you went straight from one event to the next. Whereas Thursday was the last day of school. Monday, we're flying to Disney World. Now you have 3 days to sort of adjust to the change in your schedule, and you're going to enjoy the park a lot more because you've had a few days for your mental self to make some adjustment to that change.
So I guess what's the overall message do we take with this, with routines? And, do we need to stick to a routine all the time? Or it's okay if we fall off the routine, and give yourself grace when you're off the routine and know that you'll get back on?
Yeah, I like part two. I like your second answer more than the first.
Yeah.
And the reason why I like that is because none of us are machines. We're human beings, and we need to give ourselves allowance for variance. But I think we need to be aware of that variance is going to create a mental shift, and we need to give ourselves time to adjust to that mental change. Our mental apparatus needs a little bit of time to adjust to that change.
So it's so hard, and I know this is a broad question, when our culture is go, 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 go. You hit the ground running every Monday morning because there's so much to tackle.
Right.
And we are in a culture where everything is we're a moving society constantly. But then how do you kind of adjust with the world around us when you need to slow down?
Yeah. I mean, we do not live in a culture that wants you to take time to yourself. We live in a culture that wants everything to happen right now. And if it hasn't happened now, it should have happened yesterday. That's kind of the culture we live in. So it's not really conducive to encourage us to take time for ourselves. If you live in a big city like New York City or Chicago or Los Angeles, you're living in a city that never goes to sleep. It never stops. It's always got something going on. And there is a real tendency to draw you into that and make it impossible for you to take time for yourself. And so it has to become like your almost full-time job just to make sure you're making time for yourself to take it all in.
That's exhausting though. If when you're trying to
right.
keep up, but then you're like, hold on, I need to slow down, and the world around me is not stopping because everybody's pushing through with their routine.
Right.
It's really hard.
I know. We end up having to schedule our relaxation time.
Yeah.
Which is, sometimes that's what we have to do, which feels a little bit crazy, but we do have to have that time. Meditating, going to yoga, doing something, even if it's just for a few minutes, leaving the office and walking around the building, doing something that can just get your mind out of that rat race for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Just to take a few moments to yourself is really all you need. It doesn't have to be a huge organized process. It just needs to be just a few moments for you to be by yourself and to just sort of take in whatever just happened.
So I think the overall message, what we're trying to say today, is that if you need a routine, that's fine.
Hmm.
Have a routine. Do what gives you some mental stability. If you know that not having your morning cup of coffee is going to throw your whole day out of whack, please have that morning
Get
cup
the
of
coffee.
coffee. But give yourself some grace when things are
Right.
not transpiring the way you're not hitting at 10 o'clock. I needed to have this done. At 11
Right.
o'clock, this needed to be done.
Right.
It'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not perfect at it. We're going to have days where we're not going to have that coffee first thing in the morning. We're going to have those days where we don't do things exactly in the same order that we did them the day before. And we just need to be aware that those things are going to feel a bit disruptive,
Mhm.
and to give ourselves time to process the disruptive feeling.
And the fact that our mornings or our days, as Dr. Taylor had mentioned, parents, adults, we all may still have to go to work. Kids are in camp. Things are, their pickup and their drop off and everything. The schedule may be a little out of whack right now, but just know that this just comes with the season that we're in.
That's right.
Right.
That's
So
true. That
it
true.
is what it is.
Right. And it's transient, it's not going to last forever. So that's part of it too. We'll get through it. And part of it is just being patient, taking time, letting ourselves have a moment to adjust to what's going on, and not be too rigid about our sense of routine, because that's where we get ourselves flustered. If we feel like things have to be this exact way always, period, no changes, no variance, then that's when things can really start to feel stressful.
Because that's a good point.
Right.
All right. Anything I didn't ask you, Dr. Taylor, that you feel like you want to add today?
Well, I just think it's a big topic. It's a big part of our lives to live in a routine, to be frustrated by changes in routine. But I think it's important for us to find ways to give ourselves, even if it's just a minute, to process what it means for the change to happen, and to let ourselves have a few minutes to sort of take it in and make adjustments, and not be too much in a hurry to jump from one task to the next.
Live life, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Things will get done. I know that we all stress a lot sometimes.
Right.
And then, if one thing didn't happen, then everything is thrown off whack, but that's not always the case.
I mean, it sounds a little glib to say, stop and smell the roses, but that's kind of what we're saying. Just stop and smell the roses. Just give yourself a minute to let the change seep in, because it takes our mental apparatus a little time to adjust to all this physical change that we go through.
Absolutely. All right. Dr. Taylor, always great to talk with you.
It's really good to talk
Our
with you.
routine was thrown off a little bit with the summer and adjusting and dealing with things. So we were out of whack. We were talking about that earlier. So now we're trying to get back into a groove and not being hard on ourselves for the times that
That's right.
we missed each other. But hey, we're back together today to bring you a little bit more bright hope in sometimes what feels like an overwhelming
That's
world.
right.
So
It's our moment in time.
it's our moment in time. We're stopping to smell the roses. All right. I'm Maira Ansari with Dr. Stephen Taylor. Have a wonderful day.